My name is Ken Timmerman. I'm pleased to be here with you tonight. Sorry I got here a few minutes late. We had campaign workers over at my house. I'm the Republican nominee for U.S. Congress. You see three of us here up at this table. There's a fourth person who is missing, Chris Van Hollen, who is the incumbent in part of this district. I'd remind you all that he does not know about half of the people in this district because of redistricting. And I'm going to get to your debt question very quickly because I think we're about to become Greece and we're driving ourselves off a cliff. And Chris Van Hollen has been in the driver's seat with Barack Obama driving us off a cliff because of the debt. But first I'd like to tell you a little bit about this. And I've got a bigger map if you wish. I don't know how much you can see it with that,
you just have 1 minute,
with that small camera. This is the new 8th District. It includes Carroll County and Frederick County. It includes only a portion of Montgomery County, which is what the district used to be in the past. I'd be happy to tell you a little bit more about that as we go along, but I'm thrilled to represent the people in Carroll County, Frederick County, and Montgomery County if you elect me in November. Thank you. I believe in the free market, and I believe in free market solutions. However, I believe that the crash of 2008 was brought on by a mixture of unregulated speculation and by the abolition of Glass-Steagall. I think we absolutely should bring back a separation between investment banking and commercial banking. I think that is one of the problems that we had. In addition, I am very disturbed when I learn from people such as Kevin Freeman, who's written a very interesting book I would commend you called Secret Weapon about the crash of 2008, that there were in fact 2 hedge funds in the United States that were responsible for almost all of the naked short selling that brought down Bear Stearns in April and later on Lehman Brothers. These hedge funds were being manipulated by sovereign wealth funds from Saudi Arabia and from the Middle East. So I'm very disturbed that we are not paying attention. Our regulators were asleep at the switch, and I think we have to pay attention to foreign agents and foreign countries trying to manipulate our markets. We have a crisis of confidence in our markets, and I'm very worried about that. I support right-to-work legislation. I think it's absolutely critical that workers have a choice when they go into a new workplace, whether they would belong to a union or not belong to a union. I think one of the biggest mistakes that George W. Bush made early on in his administration was creating TSA, the Transportation Security Administration, and creating it as a federal agency that was unionized from the get-go. I think that was a huge mistake. Anybody who's gone through airport security recently, and I have, and I'm sure many of you have here recently, I don't feel very secure taking off my shoes. I'm not sure that that is what is going to create a secure situation at the airport and keep terrorists off of our airplanes. I think we have to do things such as the Israelis do, which are to actually look at profiles of danger, not individual, not racial profiling, not ethnic profiling, but behavioral profiling. My opponent in this race, Chris Van Hollen, is taking us to a war we do not need and that we can actually prevent with Iran. He has supported appeasement policies that are supported by the President of the United States that are only encouraging the Iranians to pursue their nuclear weapons programs. I have been working for the past 15 years with pro-democracy forces inside Iran. In my other life, I'm the president of the Foundation for Democracy in Iran. And I can tell you, the people of Iran hate their regime, and we are doing nothing to help them. In June of 2009, 3 million Iranians took to the streets of Tehran and other cities crying out in English, so they would make sure that we would hear us and that our TVs would report this. Obama, are you with us or are you with them? Obama kept silent for 3 weeks. The answer was clear. He was with them, meaning he was with the regime. I believe it's our duty to help the people of Iran because it's in our own national security interest to help them to get rid of the regime. The details of this take longer to explain. You can go to my website, timmermanforcongress.com. We have spent trillions of dollars redistributing wealth in this country over the past 40 years. Lyndon Johnson's Great Society has been a disaster. The welfare state in this nation has destroyed the black family, it's destroyed the black community, the black church. It has created generations of Americans dependent on government. I agree with George that the best way of getting people from welfare to work is by helping them to get jobs. And the way to help them get jobs in this economy is to get government out of the way. The EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and other federal agencies under this administration have been putting a straitjacket on the private sector, have been shutting down entire sectors of the economy, including the hydraulic fracturing industry that you see in Pennsylvania and even right here in Maryland. We need to get government out of the way so the private sector can create jobs again and people can get off welfare and be dependent on themselves, not government. Well, first on Sections 1021 and 1022 of the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, that was signed into law last December by the President, is bad legislation. It should have been called the John Walker Lind Act of 2011 because it was written for one person, John Walker Lind, Taliban John, who was picked up in Afghanistan and kept in a secret prison and then kept in Guantanamo. Look, if you read that legislation, I've read it very carefully, it says explicitly, nothing in this law shall apply to U.S. citizens or green card holders that would allow them to be arrested in the United States and shipped to Guantanamo. It says it actually in the text, and I think there's been a lot of rhetoric over this which has been misplaced. It's a bad piece of legislation. It never should have been written. They should have taken care of the problem of keeping John Walker Lind in prison in a different way, but it doesn't do the things that people are afraid of. What got people very upset was President Obama saying, I have the powers to do this anyway, and that we have to be very careful about. I don't really see where the federal government has a role in education. That seems to be a local priority, whether it's county level or state level. I understand why the Department of Education was created, and that might have been justified 30 years ago. But I really don't see where it has served the purpose that it is intended for. It does not level the playing field. We have found in places like Washington, D.C., where we spend more on education per pupil than any other place in the nation and have the lowest test scores. But the amount of money you spend doesn't have a great correlation to results. You cannot legislate results. That requires families, it requires teachers, it requires people engaged in their education system, and you know what? You can't drive that from 10,000 miles away with that big long screwdriver called the federal government. It's better done at the local level. You know, it's one thing when we have 20 million illegals living in this country. It's another thing when there's 1 million or 2 million. You cannot go to the root causes or the root problem when you have 20 million illegals in this country. So the first thing we have to do is enforce our laws. We are a nation of laws. We have to enforce our laws. If you don't like the immigration laws, you can work to change them. But we have to enforce them. The people who have broken those laws need to pay the prices, need to pay the price for that. I think we have to secure our borders. I would support improving and enforcing E-Verify. I am also supportive of the referendum against the DREAM Act here in the state of Maryland. I think it is an insult to lawful taxpayers. I think it is an insult to people like my wife, who is a new legal immigrant, a new citizen in this country, for us as taxpayers to be subsidizing people who have broken the law for in-state tuition. Look, we have a spending problem, not a revenue problem. We have $5 trillion of new debt in just 3.5 years of President Obama. You know, he has spent more in those 3 years in deficit spending than the first 41 presidents of this country combined. Sure, we need tax reform. We need a simpler tax code. 3 million pages of a tax code is outrageous. I don't think any sane person, including most members of Congress, by the way, can do their own taxes without a very sophisticated program or else an accountant. You give the same tax return to 3 accountants, they'll give you 4 different answers. That's absurd, and it's obscene. We have to simplify the tax code. Personally, I would prefer moving towards a fair tax, which means that you have to begin with repealing the 16th Amendment. That is a big piece. It's not an easy thing to do, but that I think would be the best system we can move to. In the meantime, simpler, fairer, flatter. We are a unique nation under President Obama in that we are the only nation on this earth that has an embargo on our own natural resources. We have an embargo on U.S. oil and U.S. gas. I think we have to lift that. We have to get the EPA out of the way. I mentioned earlier hydraulic fracturing, fracking in Pennsylvania. Now the EPA would like to have federal regulations all across the nation to prohibit and prevent hydraulic fracturing, which is, by the way, an economic boom If we could do that in Western Maryland would take off again. The economy is crumbling, and the Maryland state government won't allow it, and the federal government is trying to get in the way of that as well. We need to develop our own natural resources. We have 7 times the exploitable oil reserves in this country than Saudi Arabia has, and we're not exploiting it. We have to get rid of that embargo on U.S. oil and gas. Thank you. We have term limits called elections, and we're coming up on one this November. I'm privileged to be running in this seat in the 8th District. At the new 8th District, we have 3 counties. It is no longer the Montgomery County seat. We have an incumbent Obama Democrat in the seat who would not deign even to show up here tonight and to debate the issues. We have an opportunity to present a real alternative. We have an opportunity to let the people speak here in the 8th District, Carroll County, Frederick County, Montgomery County. I look forward to that. I look forward to debating Chris Van Hollen, who is the incumbent, and I hope we'll have more events like this where we can exchange those views. And I'm really pleased to be here with the 2 of you tonight and to hear your views as well. I haven't met you before, but it's a great opportunity, and I'm enjoying that. I would like to have Chris Van Hollen in this room to be able to justify wasting $5 trillion of our money. Our children and our grandchildren will never forgive us for this. Well, thank you. My name is Ken Timmerman, and I'm running for Congress in the 8th District. I'm the Republican nominee. I'm an investigative reporter by trade. I'm not a professional politician. I got into this race because I believe, number one, 2012 is a watershed year. Our freedoms are at stake in this country. Our freedoms at home are at stake by government overreach. Our freedoms from fear and from threat overseas are at stake by appeasement policies from this administration and the incumbent, Chris Van Hollen. We need real solutions, smaller government. We need to get rid of Obamacare. We need to exploit our own national resources. We have to stop the embargo on U.S. oil and U.S. gas. We have to get government out of the way so business can create jobs again and get this economy going. We have too much government in every single sector that you see. The real solution to America's problems today, to our overspending, to this debt that we're piling up onto our children, is getting government out of the way, shrinking the size of government. We're selling our kids into slavery to the foreign bondholders in communist China and other countries around the world. We have to stop this insanity before it is too late. We're going to become Greece. We're going to become Greece if we don't stop this right away. So real solutions, less government, get government out of the way, defend our freedoms at home, and be strong to face up to threats overseas.